When you picture a powerful leader, what do you see? Probably someone at the very top of a pyramid, calling the shots, right? But what if the most effective way to lead isn't to command, but to serve? Today, we're going to dive into this really fascinating, kind of counterintuitive idea called servant leadership. Let's see what it's all about.
So, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll talk about flipping that classic leadership pyramid on its head. Then, we'll get into the core philosophy, what it means to be servant first instead of leader first. After that, we'll hit the 10 core principles, look at the very real pros and cons, and wrap up with what it truly means to lead through service. All right, first up, section 1, flipping the pyramid. Right out of the gate, we're going to challenge that old school top-down idea of what a leader is supposed to be. And it all really boils down to this one simple but honestly super profound question. Is a leader's main job to give orders, or is it to serve the needs of their team? Your gut answer to this says a whole lot about the kind of leader you are or the kind of leader you want to work for. Okay, so check this out. On the left, you've got the model we all know, the leader sitting at the very peak of the pyramid. But servant leadership completely flips that script. The pyramid is inverted, and the leader moves to the bottom. They become the foundation, the support system for everyone else. It's not about being the boss, it's about holding everyone up so the whole team can succeed. So let's move on to section 2 and see how this idea becomes a whole philosophy. Servant first versus leader first. This whole concept was actually developed way back in 1970 by a guy named Robert K. Greenleaf, who just wasn't buying into the old authoritarian style of leadership. So what is it, really? Well, simply put, servant leadership is all about making the well-being, the growth, and the empowerment of your people your number one priority. The focus totally shifts. It moves away from the leader's own status or even just hitting company targets, and it zooms right in on the individuals on the team. And Greenleaf himself just nailed the mindset with this quote. He said, "The servant leader is servant first. It begins with a natural feeling that one wants to serve first." See, this shows it's not just some tactic you pull out of a hat. It's a core part of who you are. The desire to lead comes after that first instinct to just help. So this is the fundamental difference, right? It's the starting motivation. A leader-first person, they're often driven by a need for power, for personal gain. They want to be in charge. But a servant-first person, they're driven to make sure that other people's most important needs are being taken care of. It's about them, not about you. Okay, this all sounds really good in theory, but how does it actually work? Let's jump into section 3, the 10 core principles. This is how you take this big idea and make it real, something you can actually do. See, Greenleaf didn't just leave this as a vague philosophy. He actually identified 10 specific observable traits that show you what a servant leader looks like in the real world. And here they are. It's a really powerful list. This is basically the servant leader's toolkit. It all starts with the basics, like deep listening and real empathy. But it goes so much deeper. It's about healing, helping people move past their struggles, and awareness of yourself and your team. It's about using persuasion instead of just barking orders. And it's about balancing that big picture thinking, the conceptualization, with practical foresight. And finally, it's about stewardship, taking care of the organization, a deep, genuine commitment to helping people grow, and above all, building a real community. These are the actions that bring the whole philosophy to life. But, no leadership style is a silver bullet. Nothing is perfect. So let's get practical in section 4 and take an honest look at the real-world pros and cons. We need a balanced view here. Let's look at both sides of the coin. On the plus side, servant leaders earn some serious respect and build way more trust. When your team feels heard, they're more likely to share those killer ideas that drive innovation, and you create an environment where people can actually grow. But the downsides are real too. For a lot of places, this is a totally unfamiliar way to lead, and it can mean a huge, difficult cultural change. It's also not great for making super fast decisions in a crisis. And there's a risk that you might give people more responsibility than they're really ready for. And that brings us to our final section, number 5, leading through service. This is all about the bottom line, how we measure success, and what the ultimate goal of this whole thing really is. This is really the end game. Greenleaf came up with what he called the best test. He basically said, forget about profits and promotions for just a second. Ask this instead. Do those served grow as persons? Do they become healthier, wiser, freer, more autonomous, more likely themselves to become servants?
The true measure of success for this kind of leader is how much other people grow. And if you need a powerful real-world example, just think about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He didn't step into a leadership role for power or for fame. He did it purely in service to others, to fight for social justice. He's a timeless, incredible model of what a servant leader can accomplish. So, if there's one core idea to take away from all this, it's this. Servant leadership completely redefines what success looks like. It's not about what a leader gets for themselves. It's all about the growth and the well-being they create for other people and for the community as a whole. And that really just leaves us with one last question, a question for you to think about. Now that you've seen this other way, its philosophy, its practices, its impact, you got to ask yourself, what kind of leader do you choose to be?